going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SmallTown Collectibles YouTube channel. I'm Jimmy Don Kerr. My guest today is a channel that I have followed really for some time. I did a shout out video and actually shouted this channel out. And then to watch the explosion of growth that this channel has had has been something amazing. I mean, you're going to find a lot, like the newest video we did was an omnibus haul. You're going to find some mystery boxes from time to time. You're going to find top 5 lists. Like there's literally a variety of content on this channel. So I want everybody to join me in welcoming to 10 Questions, BJ Kicks.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. Yes, I remember that shout out. I had like 150 subscribers. It was like a super low amount when you shouted me out. And I didn't even know people did shout outs. So when you reached out to me, I was like, what? Cool, thanks. I don't even know how you found me.
Well, it was a mention, you're kind of, you watch on YouTube, I come across your channel and I was like, okay, well, check this guy out, because I was at that time, I was doing a lot of shout out videos. Mm-hmm. And so I was always looking for new channels that I would kind of dig and I'd want to shout them out. And I came across yours and I was like, all right, cool. I like this. I liked your vibe, I guess is what I should say. You just seem like a cool cat, a guy that I would probably hang out with if I knew you in real life. Right. So I thought, I'm going to shout this dude out. And like you said, you were like maybe 100, 150. I can't remember. I meant to look before we came on and then I forgot. And now channel just kind of exploded. So yeah, man, congratulations to you on all the success. And I've really enjoyed watching your channel grow.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, brother. So question 1 is kind of always the same on 10 questions. And that is, what or who got you into collecting?
Well, I've always been a bit of a collector, right? Before comics, well, the first thing, it was sneakers. That's where my name comes from, BJ Kicks. So it was sneakers, and then sneakers kind of shifted into records when I started getting into music production. And then I guess the subject of this conversation is comics, right? Mm-hmm. So what got me into comics was really my daughter. So as a kid, I had comic books, because my grandmother lived in New York. So we'd go to New York for the summer, and one of my uncle's friends, I don't know if he worked at a comic shop or what, but he would just drop off these huge Rite Aid bags full of comics all the time for us. And so I had exposure to comics in that way, but we weren't really reading them. We were just collecting them for the pictures and trying to copy them and draw them and stuff like that in our little notebooks or whatever. So that was childhood. So fast forward 20 years, my daughter, she'll be 11 next month. But she's very much into art, and not just drawing, but she'll make shadow boxes. She does it all. And so my attempt to help her foster the creativity, I was like, well, you know what? There was a free comic book day event going on. And so I saw an ad and I was like, I'll take her to a comic shop. I used to love these pictures. I'm sure she'll love it too. So I took her to the free comic book day event. She picked up a bunch of comics. She met a local artist. And then there was a dollar bin that they had opened up in a storefront. And so I went through the dollar bins, found some stuff that just reminded me of my childhood. I bought a Wolverine book and some other stuff, right? And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So at the time I was working, well, I'm still working the same job, but I was working in customer service, and it was just really boring. It turns out there's a comic shop. I don't know if you guys are familiar, or if you're familiar with Atomic Empire. They have a pretty big online presence apparently, but they're literally right across the street from my job. And so I would go in there on my lunch break, just trying to get out of the mindset of work. And eventually I just started buying comics, and it kind of just grew from there. It's been 2 years. It was free comic book day 2 years ago. And so I started buying stuff for myself and just really kind of threw myself into it. It just happened to come at a time where, I guess I needed it.
Sure.
The pandemic really accelerated my buying habits because everything's online. You're not really keeping track of what you're spending. It's just you press a button and it comes in the mail. And here we are 2 years later.
So let me ask you a little bit about, you talk about the records. Now, are you saying vinyl or, yes. See, that's something that I really dig. Is I tell her I have a problem. I like everything. So but vinyl records, I think are really cool. Do you collect older vinyl, or is it more if you're DJing or, doing that kind of work, you're picking up vinyl for that?
Yeah. So what I was doing, I was making beats. So I'm sampling, and usually when you're sampling like older records. So it started out with like a lot of like 60s and 70s soul. But I studied African American history in school, and so a lot of the classes that I took were related to like music and media. So I kind of have a bunch like from the 40s all the way on up. So we've got like jazz, we've got big band stuff, um, like just little like barbershop records, comedy albums. Basically, I'll buy anything once. But yeah, the majority of my collection is, I would say, soul and then jazz.
That's cool. It's my youngest daughter loves vinyl records.
Mm.
And so, and she, I don't know, my youngest daughter she's just different. She has a different outlook on life in general, but she loves old vintage things, and she's 12, 13. And she loves like old vintage records. She loves things like that. And she likes to listen to them. We bought her, an actual record player, and we'll go somewhere, and instead of looking at dresses or, like shopping, she'll buy a vinyl record, something that she digs. And I had an uncle that was really into Motown. So I listened to a whole lot of Motown as a kid growing up. So I kind of introduced her to that. And so she's kind of digging that. So that's cool. Like the sneaker thing too, is that just an extension of, hey, I just like shoes and collect them, or are you like, I have my very first pair of Jordans I ever owned,
Yeah, like, so as a kid, I didn't grow up with like a bunch of money, right? So my mom was a single parent, but like sneakers were all the rage, like, so middle school, Nelly's Air Force One song comes out, everybody's got all these different colors and stuff. I ain't have any of that, right? I remember begging my mom for a pair of Iversons. This was back when like the Answer 6 was out.
Yeah.
Commercial with Jadakiss and all that. And my mom bought me a pair of Iversons, but they weren't that model. She bought me like some random, like, I don't know what they were, but they had like an Iverson logo on them. And I was like, I wasn't specific enough. But anyway, so from then it was just like, I want to get all these shoes. Like that's when like they had like all these sneaker forums and blogs, and they still have those, but they're not like as big as they were then. But long story short, I kind of stumbled on like some Chinese manufacturers that were selling what I now know to be knockoffs. But yeah, when I was 15, 14, I found these websites, like these overseas suppliers. And so I'd buy a couple pair for myself, and I get my friends to order some too, so we could get the big quantity or wholesale discount. And that kind of grew into a business. And so, but my love for sneakers really comes from the time when I didn't have them, and we would like print out pictures of the sneakers we wanted, and save old East Bay magazines and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I was really heavy into sneakers from like age 14 to like basically until I graduated high school, and I kind of slowed down because college funds are low.
Right.
And then when I got married, I got back into it heavy. So that was 2014. And then I just realized I was spending a lot of money. Like, the average pair of Jordans now is almost $200.
I know, it's so crazy.
Yeah. And they come out every Saturday morning. It's like, so if you're not careful, you're spending thousands of dollars a year on sneakers. So I just kind of had to shut that off cold turkey. And so in comparison, comics was like, oh, I can get like 1 million comics for the price of 1 week of Jordans.
Right. That makes sense, though. I mean, it really does. I said, because, Jordan was kind of my favorite ball player back in the day, right? Like he was, when I was a kid, professional, it was Jordan. You kind of saw the end of Bird Magic, Dr. J, that crew. And then, you kind of usher in Jordan, and then AI, and, Karl Malone, John Stockton. You had all those teams as far as that goes. And so Jordan was a guy. And I remember, because my dad thought paying $100 for a pair of tennis shoes was the dumbest thing in the world. Like he thought that was the dumbest thing you could do. And so I had to earn the money to buy my first Jordans.
Yeah.
And I loved them. I still have them. I mean, that's how I worked so hard to get them that I kept them. And they're actually probably worth some money now. But anyway, all right. So I digress. That was interesting to me, though. And that was something I always wanted to ask you, too, though, because I knew a little bit of that, but I wanted to explore that a little bit. So When it comes to comic books, question 2 is this. do you consider yourself a reader or a collector? Like I am a reader who collects. I like to read the books, and I end up with this massive collection. So how does that work for you?
Yeah, I would consider myself a reader as well. I certainly do collect. And here lately I've been buying things faster than I can read them. So I guess that makes me a collector by default. But I mean, I sign off the end of all my videos with buy what you like, read what you buy, and be nice to others, right? So I definitely believe you should be reading your books. It's not like I don't buy comic books to have them sitting somewhere all nice and neat. Now, every now and then, like for example, Static just came out this past week, and I'm a huge
Mm-hmm.
fan of Milestone Media. So when Static comes out, I bought I bought 2 copies because I want to be able to read it and flip through it and so on. So for certain books, I'll certainly like buy multiple copies and collect them and keep one in really good condition because you never know, And there's certainly been times where I've had to sell off books to make ends meet.
Sure.
So I try to keep my books in good condition, but I only buy books if I plan to read them. Really.
Yeah, well, that's kind of me. Like I said, I enjoy reading. I read a lot of different things, but I'm really comic books are as much an escape for me as they
Mhm.
are anything. So I wanted to touch on like your latest video was the omnibus haul,
Yeah.
and I haven't really talked to anybody about omnibuses versus the floppies or buying the single issues.
Mhm.
Do you have a lot of omnibuses?
I do. I do now, and I'm working on my. Obviously, I'm in a brand new space. We just moved 2 weeks ago. I'm working on a video where I put the space together, and I'm realizing how many books I have. For me, because I'm newer to comics, it's so much easier to buy an omnibus if I want to get into a story. Because when you ask about like what comics to read or whatever, people always say, "Oh, read this person's run of Batman," and it's like, I'm not. How am I going to find 170 issues
Right.
of Brian Michael Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man? It's like you can't do it. So you grab the omnibus, you grab the trade, and so on. So I started off buying trades, and they just don't feel like they're durable. Like you can read trades a bunch of times and not really damage them, but for me, they just don't feel like they're durable. And so I went with standard size hardcovers and I kind of settled on the omnibus and deluxe oversized format just because it's the biggest and it's the like I said, I think it's the most cost effective, even though they're really expensive and they're coming out more often now. They're they're the most bang for your buck if you're trying to read stories.
Gotcha. No, and that's something that I've been looking at, which I will read a lot of older stuff digitally,
Hmm.
but I don't like it. I like to have the book in my hand. I guess I'm old school that way, where I
Yeah.
grew up, not quite in the digital age, but like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Hmm.
So I like to have the floppies in my hand. I like to have an actual book in my hand. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily enjoy reading on the iPad. So I think that's a great way, and it's a great answer as far as if you're really looking to get into books and you're trying to find something to read, reading a particular writer's run is a good way to do it, and omnibus is an excellent way to do that. Does it become like a collection thing too? Are you a completionist, I guess is the question? Like when you start, do you have to buy everything?
I can't. Because there's just so much that comes out. The hill that I'll die on is I will buy just about anything Batman and just about anything X-Men. Um, Perhaps I'd be better off if I chose Green Arrow or something, right? Batman and X-Men, they seem to get collections like every other week.
Yeah.
But those are my favorites. So yeah, I'll pretty much buy anything Batman and anything X-Men, but everything else, it's just if I have the money, if I'm really interested, or if it's a writer I really like, then I'll buy that.
Cool. So question 3 is I like to talk to people in the community about how they collect. Like, do you have a pull list at your LCS?
Yes. Yeah, I still buy single issues every week. Although I probably should slow down on those. But yes, I have a pull list and it gets crazy. I mean, I do my pull list video every Sunday. It's called what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
And on that video, I'd show everybody like what I'm buying, how much it costs, and I try to stick to about $50 a week. I don't mind going over every now and then, but if I find myself spending $80, $90 every week, then it's okay, something is wrong. But yeah, I have a pull list at my LCS, and then I use different pre-order sites. Like, I have a relationship with Organic Price Books, so when I buy Omnibus, I usually buy them from there. And with those, a few months in advance what's coming out, so you can go ahead and pre-order it that way as well. So
cool. That's I like that video that you do about, and because one thing that I think a lot of people, and I don't think it's talked about enough, really, it's come up a few times on 10 questions, but when I first got back into the hobby, I think it was in 16. When I first got back, dude, I was buying everything. Like I was buying cover A, B, C, and D of every book that I was reading. Like I was going crazy. And you kind of figure out, and I think it's important to talk about with people when you are a collector and when you're in the hobby, is you have to still stay within a budget.
Right.
There is something to that.
Yeah. And I'm someone like I run a side hustle, right? So, I mean, I've got a different YouTube channel. I do marketing consulting and stuff. And so I know that I have a tendency to believe I can out earn any situation, right? Oh, I spent too much. Cool. I'll do an extra console here or there. And so for me, it's like, okay, I have to stick to a hard and fast budget, or, it becomes self-destructive behavior, right? You got a room full of comic books, but 3 weeks from now, you won't have a room.
Right.
So yeah, it's sticking to or highlighting the budget aspect of it is important to me, because I watch a lot of channels. I started YouTube because I watch a lot of YouTube, and everybody is just showing off everything they buy every week, and it can be dangerous because you feel that pressure. You feel like, oh, if I don't have this one too, then I'm missing out, or I'm not as good as this person, or whatever.
Yeah, it's that keeping up with the Joneses mentality. Like, this guy got this, so I've got to get this. But I think that's really important. It doesn't, and when it comes to your hobby, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You just got to budget and buy the things that are really, really important to you. And that's one of my favorite videos that you do, because it really highlights an aspect that I think is important, and it's not really talked about enough, because people will go and buy that 1 in 100 variant, but can't put gas in their car. That makes no sense. Don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So question 4 is, and this is, I want to kind of, really dive in, because I know I've heard you talk about your side hustle and things like that, but why did you start the comic book YouTube channel? Like, what led you into that?
Sure. I mean, there's a bunch of things that kind of happened at once to kind of lead me to it. My local comic shop, Ultimate Comics Raleigh, they do a live show every week, and they had started a Facebook group. And I found myself just being excited about contributing to that group. And so I would post discussion questions and all kinds of stuff. And I felt like I was intruding on their space, and so I was like, all right. I was like, well, let me start something of my own, and maybe I can grow it into a community that's pretty cool. So that was one part of it. The other part was, back in October, I found out my wife was pregnant. And so it was like, all right, I can spend $200 a month on comic books, or I can spend my $200 a month on diapers, but it can't be both. So if I start this YouTube channel and I can grow it enough, maybe by the time my baby is born in June, is what I thought, I'll be able to monetize it, and I can pay for my comics with YouTube, and I can have my cake and eat it too. So those were the two big kind of drivers. But other than that, all the cliche reasons, I just wanted to see stuff that was more like what I like. There's a bunch of YouTube channels, and there's a lot of people that I'm inspired by. I used to love Joe Ryan's videos. I don't know if you saw him. He's not on YouTube anymore, but he used to do a weekly pull list video that I loved. I love watching Near Mint Condition. I love watching Gem Mint Collectibles, right? But Gem Mint's only doing his comic reviews once a week, and Near Mint was doing a bunch of omnibus, but it was I can't buy all these omnibus. And so I wanted a channel where it's I can show off those things if I get those things, but I really just want to talk about the stories I love and things that I love, experiences that I love. And so that, it really was just about bringing my voice. And then, another aspect of it was, I know I like stories that other people aren't going to talk about. We're in a super politically charged climate, and there have been some channels that I've watched where I straight up feel not welcome. I feel like if I saw this person on the street, they would hate me. And I didn't like feeling like that in the hobby. So part of my goal is all right, if I can create, I don't want to use the word safe space, right? But if I can create a space where people feel welcome, right? Because I'm sure people can look at me and guess my politics, but that's not, you vote twice, every 2 years at best, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's not what runs my life. What I come to this hobby for is to have fun. And so I want to be able to have fun with people and have them not feel alienated. And so for all of those reasons, my channel exists.
Cool. I love that answer, man. I think that's great. And you're right. We do live in such a politically charged climate that, like, I promise you, BJ, I would almost bet you $100 to one that our political ideology is probably different. It's probably somewhat similar, but somewhat
Yeah.
different.
Right.
But you're the kind of cat that I 100% could hang out with. Like, I watch your channel and I'm like, dude, I love this guy. And that's one of the cool things about the hobby or the community is you can find those spaces where there's so, like you said, there's so many differences in the world, and people are separated by so many reasons. It's nice to have something that that can bring us together.
Right.
And that's one of my favorite things about the community. So I want question 5, and I want you to talk about, because I know you kind of do this marketing thing, but you and I were kind of talking before we came on, or maybe it was during the video. I've said so many things now I can't remember.
Right.
I shouted you out, right? You had 100 subscribers, and I think you're up to, and this wasn't that long ago, and you're up to 2,600 subs now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want you to talk about your growth, and people like me and, the people who watch my channel, watch your channel, that have YouTube, that are aspiring to, kind of grow. Talk a little bit about that, because I know you do the marketing side hustle, you do those things. So I want you to talk about specifically that and how your channel's grown, and maybe some tips and things you shouldn't do to grow.
Sure, absolutely. And I have a video kind of discussing this a little bit more in depth, so I'll send the link after we're done chatting. But basically, marketing is all about experimentation, right? And a lot of it is trial and error. And so the short answer of how I'm able to grow on YouTube is I try to find things that work, and if I see something working, I double down on it, right? And so, like, early on, what really brought a lot of attention to my channel were the Ollie's videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would be doing videos and they get like a couple dozen views, but then I do the Ollie's video and it'd get like a few hundred views. And so, I was like, okay, well, people like this. Let me do it again. And so the comic book hunting videos were really big for me. Certain reviews were really big for me. But when it comes to YouTube, like, I have another channel where we've got almost 22,000 subscribers on that channel, and I teach music marketing to musicians. And with that, it's very different from how the comic channel works. But basically, I create content that I know people are going to be searching for. If you have a channel that's a little bit more educational, right? Like if this was how to make comics, right? Then what you would do is you would make sure you title your video in a way that the things that people are searching for are in your video titles, right? So maybe one video is how to draw legs, or how to draw arms, or how to draw a torso, and so on, right? People are going to be searching for that for years. And so those videos might not do well at the very beginning, but they'll do well over time, right? And on the other side of that is what I call timely content, right? Like, I make videos about things that are very hot in a specific moment, right? So my new comic book day videos, or my pull list video, when it comes out Sunday, I know that it's got pretty much all the traction it's going to get by the time Thursday rolls around. And then it's time to put another piece of coal in the engine, right? So I do those videos. But then, like, even like with comic book reviews, I love comic book reviews, but the reality is people don't really watch them like that. So my retro reviews series, which was something I was really excited about, I've done Green Lantern Rebirth, I've done Superman Birthright, I did Venom. I did like an hour-long video of Donny Cates' Venom with MJ Comics, and it was great. I loved making those videos, but they just didn't get the results that I would need in order to keep growing. And again, as much as I would do this for free, my ultimate goal is to be able to be a stay-at-home dad with my kids and still be able to provide for them as if I was working full-time. And so YouTube can't just be about the joy of creativity for me, but I sprinkle in those videos to feel creatively fulfilled. But so it's YouTube. I think what people don't realize, because people will say, "Oh, just be consistent," or just make sure you're tagging your videos appropriately, and just keep doing it, right? But you don't really get to dictate how well YouTube does, right? And so people talk about the algorithm and all this stuff. And what I've said in other videos is the algorithm is really just a reflection of the people, right? If you do things that people like, then people will take action. They'll like your video, they'll comment on your video, they'll subscribe to your channel, right? And if you're not making content that people like, one, they may not even see it because YouTube won't recommend it. But two, even if they do see it, they'll jump off quickly, so on. So a part of it is choosing the right content to make. And then the other part is doing a really good job at creating that content. I do put effort into my production, right? I do put effort into my energy on camera, right? Like, I work in customer service. My job used to be talking to people on the phone all day. And the last thing I want to do is talk, right? But if I'm on camera, I gotta turn it on. I gotta, what's up, guys? Look what I got, And my YouTube personality is not super far from my normal real life personality, right? Like this is how I talk to you any day, right? But I know that people want to see like the outrageous thumbnails. So I'll put a stack of books next to my head, right? Things I wouldn't necessarily do in real life. But it's fun. And I look at it as like, you guys are in on the joke. And so I have fun in that way. But yeah, when it comes to growth, growth is important to me. It's not the most important thing, but I can't ignore it as, an important part of my daily life, because if this isn't growing, then I have to stop. And if I have to stop YouTube, then I have to stop buying comics. And I don't want to stop buying comics. So yeah, it's for my advice for aspiring creators is, one, choose something that you enjoy, right? Because I have another channel with 20,000 subscribers, and sometimes it is like pulling teeth to get me to sit in front of this camera, right? But on this channel, you guys know, if you've been following me, I make a video almost every single day and it never gets old, right? And so you have to choose something that you love, because there are aspects, even if you 100% love it, there are aspects that you're not going to like. I don't like editing videos necessarily. I don't like how much time I have to spend in the YouTube app checking my stats and stuff like that. But what it affords me, meeting people, and I have partner. I met comic book creators. I've had authors send me advanced copies of their stuff. I now have a sponsorship where I don't get everything for free. I don't get most things for free, but I get to get into cool stories without having to invest my money sometimes. And that's awesome, And so when I think about like, okay, where was I a year ago and where am I now? It's like, yo, a year ago I wasn't even doing this. I didn't start this channel till November. And so I get excited about the possibilities that come with growth. The more subscribers I get, the more brands want to reach out to me, the more somebody might pay me to talk about their product, the more somebody might send me a book, and the more friends I might make, right? But the other part of it is, make sure you do things in a way that you enjoy, right? Because I put a very specific emphasis on building community, right? So when I'm not on YouTube, I've got my Facebook group, the K Squad, that I invite people to join in every single video. And we do discussions, we do giveaways, we had a fan art contest or a swap. Like, so we mailed out covers to each other. So I'm really big on the community aspect, and knowing that I'm reaching real people and not just numbers on the screen really helps keep my head in the game.
Cool, man. Love that answer so much. So question 6 kind of goes along with this, and it was something I actually wanted to speak with you specifically about. And
Right.
It's something that people have asked me multiple times, should they do? Is this something that you do? And that is buying subs. So do you what do you think about that? Like that, just that subject in general. Have you ever done that to help grow your channel? Maybe get yourself over 1,000 subs, or is it just straight up? I'm doing the content, putting in the work, and come what may.
Yeah, I come from the music industry where buying followers and buying plays and stuff like that is huge, right? The problem with it is if you're buying subs, chances are they're coming from a click farm in some underdeveloped country, right? So even if you're buying the subs, you can't buy engagement. You can't buy fans, like actual fans, right? And so it doesn't help you in the long run. Like if you're a musician and you buy streams on Spotify, well, one, it's against Spotify's terms of service. If Spotify catches you, they'll remove your music from their platform altogether and possibly ban you for life. And they won't pay you for the streams that you bought anyway, right? And then when it comes to Spotify pays you $10 on average for every 1,500 streams, right? Most places will sell you like 10,000 streams for about $40. Right? You're not making that money up.
Yeah.
It's a money pit, and it's not helping you in the long run. And it's the same with YouTube plays and so on. These software companies, they know anything they want to know about a person. They know how long we're on this page. They know when I scroll. They know what picture I stopped at. They know everything there is to know about me. You can't outsmart these systems. You can't outsmart YouTube. If YouTube is paying people for views, right, then they're going to go and do everything they can to make sure the views they're paying you for are legitimate and the subscribers they're paying you for are legitimate. But yeah, I wouldn't buy subscribers, especially because subscribers aren't even the most important thing on YouTube. The most important thing on YouTube is watch time and audience retention. And again, you can't buy those things.
That's a great point, and that leads me to question 7, because the one of the things that I did like, and almost from a mental health standpoint. So my job daily, I own a mortgage company, I own a real estate investment company, and so my job is to look at numbers, right? And I'm no longer doing the day-to-day hustling of doing the loans and helping people get into the homes. My job is to run my business from the 3,000-foot view and look at what's going on. So I study analytics on a daily basis. That is pretty much what I do, and cultivate relationships. That's what I do. So I really, like, at first, and this is something, BJ, that I had told my kids like constantly, that subscribers and likes are not love. Okay.
Right.
That's not love. And they are growing up in this generation where this is all they know. And social media, that is all they know.
Right.
And so to them, it is. That's, reaffirmation that, people think they're cool or whatever. And I found myself falling into that trap by looking at my subscriber count. And for my personal mental health, that just was not good. So I took it and I flipped it and started looking at the analytics of the channel. And looking at, because you can literally, there is so much information in YouTube. You can literally go and see where people start watching your video and where they quit watching your video and where the meat of what they watch is. And so talk to me a little bit about how much you look at your analytics. Like, do you look at that stuff on a daily basis and kind of plan your content around it? Or is it something you just use as a tool to kind of give you some ideas on what you need to do?
Yeah. I certainly, like YouTube does the whole top 10 thing, right? So every time you put out a video, it'll tell you where it ranks among the views in the first hour, first 3 hours, whatever it is, right? So I find myself falling in that trap. I'll look at that and be like, oh man, 10 out of 10, it wasn't a good video, all right? And then lo and behold, you look at it a week later and things have kind of evened out.
Yeah,
most of the time. I'm a marketing nerd, right? And so much of marketing is analytics, like you said. So I don't know that I could ever stop looking at analytics. But I try to only let the analytics affect my content when it needs to, right? Like if I'm noticing a trend, if I did, because most of the videos that I do are like series, right? Like I don't just do random videos, but I do my pull list video. I do my sponsor video with Mainstream Comics. I'll do the omnibus hauls, right? And so what I can see over time is, okay, this type of video consistently performs lower. This type of video consistently performs higher, right? And so that it'll make me do more or less of a thing, but I'm not making individual video adjustments based on analytics most of the time.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I look a lot at, like, I was talking about this. I was on In the Mix with DJ Links, and DJ and I were kind of talking about this, and we got into this deep discussion about how I look at, like, 10 questions, for example, is as much for me as it is for my audience. Okay. Because, like, getting to sit down and chop it up with you right now about this is incredibly interesting to me, and I love it. And, like, when we get done, I'll feel like I've made a new friend in BJ Kicks, right? A dude that I used to watch on YouTube all the time. Now me and BJ Kicks are cool. If I see him out, we're going to, hug and do all that stuff.
Right.
So it's as much for me as it is anything. And it's probably, and it gets decent views for my subscriber count, gets decent views, but my retention is off the hook. Like, I will get, if 100 people watch the video, I'll end up with, 110 watch hours.
Yeah.
Because the people that are consuming it all.
Right.
And that's as important as anything, rather than doing an 8-minute video that they're watching 4 minutes of, and you get 500 hours or whatever, or 500 views. I'm still not getting as many hours as I am. So I really focus on that aspect of it, and what people are watching, and how long they're watching it, and, how many hours am I picking up? Does that make sense to you as far as what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And a concept that I've heard is from a tech reviewer. Her name is Sarah Dici, but she says she makes one for her and one for them, right? I do videos. There are videos that I do because I know they're going to get a certain audience. They're going to get me more views and so on. But there's also videos that I do just because I want to do them.
Sure.
And I try to maintain a fair balance, because let's be real. Again, the audience dictates what performs well on YouTube. But if all I do is play to the audience, right, it's really no different than me going and working a job I don't really like, right? If I don't like the content that I'm making, it's just as much like, you're kind of a slave to it. And I never want to be a slave to anything.
Right. No, great point, man. And like I said, I think that's great. All right. So question 8, and really kind of the rest of what we're going to do. I know we kind of spent some time on, like, YouTube and how it works. But I do want to jump back over to kind of the comic book realm. And so one of the questions that I've been asking every week for some time, and it was really just because I was having this conversation with a lot of people. And so I wanted to know what the people I was talking to on 10 Questions thought about it. And it has to do with the indie comic books versus DC and Marvel, the big two. And it seems like a lot of people are trending towards indie comics. Like, they're still consuming, like you are probably getting Batman every week.
Right.
You're probably getting X-Men every week. Like me, I love Superman. So Superman for me every week. The Immortal Hulk for me every week when it comes out. But I also buy a ton of indie stuff that I didn't necessarily buy before. Right. And when I'm putting it in my queue as far as what to read, it's at the top.
The indies jump to the top.
They jump to the top. Why do you think that is?
So for me, we just had another baby. My baby's in the NICU, right? So
I'm sorry.
No.
She's doing okay?
She's doing well. She's doing
Great.
well. We're on the tail end of it. I think within the next 3 to 4 weeks, she should be home.
Awesome. That's great.
As far as NICU stays go, we've been on the better side, the less eventful side. And so it's good, all things considered. But people that watch my pull list videos, they know I'm notoriously behind on a lot of things, right? And so with the indies, because I like to feel like I'm reading what I'm buying, I'm not just like stacking books up, right? And with the indies, a lot of times they're short. They're like 5-issue miniseries, 6-issue miniseries, and so I can get caught up on them really quick. And they're also just really good. Like, I love, like, if I pick up Batman, what are we on? 111 next week?
Yeah.
Right. If I pick up Batman 111, I can't read that book without going back and catching up from issue 107, which was the last one I read. Like, there's no way. Right. And it's like that with every book from the big two. There's so much continuity to remember. Like, you got to be fully caught up or it's not going to make sense. And 9 times out of 10, the person walking into a comic shop buying it because it's a cool cover, like, will have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
I love Batman. I didn't start picking Batman up for like a year into myself buying comics because I picked up Batman 68 by Tom King. Had a really cool variant cover. I love what it looked like on the outside. I open it up on the inside and it's like Catwoman and Lois Lane in the Fortress of Solitude. I'm like, what? Where's
What's
Batman?
this?
What is happening? Right. And so it's like the way comics are being written from the big two, it makes it difficult to get into and it makes it difficult to keep up with, right? I love that Infinite Frontier just happened because it meant a brand new starting point for a lot of books. I've been interested in the Flash for 3 years now, but I couldn't read the Flash because there was already 2 years of storytelling that I had missed out on and I felt like I'd be behind. And I don't have 24 or 24 issues worth of time to read and get caught up. So anyway, the indie comics, they jump to the top of my pull list because I can read them faster. And 9 times out of 10, they're really interesting stories. I love that indie books. You get some superhero stuff if you want that. You get slice of life stuff if you want that. Like right now, I'm reading Home. I love that. I read
Great.
Home is great. I read Excellence by Brandon Thomas and Kari Randolph, and I love that book. Like, so it's like you get family drama. You get things that you wouldn't necessarily get. And for me, comics, I mean, I know I got a big TV behind me, but I don't really watch TV. I don't really watch movies. I got into comics partly because, I'm trying to get away from like all of the sexual content that's kind of taking over TV, right? I can't even watch network TV right now. And so you get into comics and it's like, you got slice of life stuff. Like I said, you get your magic and whatever you want, you'll likely find in an indie book. Right. But Marvel and DC stuff, it's super heavy and it's all the superhero content is really dark. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of it is.
Yeah. A lot of it's super dark. So yeah, I like fun stories. I like to have fun. I want my kids to be able to walk into the room at any time and me not have to put away what I'm doing.
Right.
And everybody's not like that. Everybody doesn't have kids. Everybody doesn't have like the same sensitivity to certain things. So like it's all about what you're into. But yeah, for me, the indie comics they're easier to bet on right now.
So something you just said that I find interesting because the same thing happened to me, and this has nothing to do with anything. I just want to know, like when I had my daughters, I instantly realized I was watching TV, and I would have to turn the channel. Like I could not watch anything that I had been watching. And I guess I'd been so desensitized to what I was actually watching that I didn't realize what it had become. Okay. You're so desensitized. But when I had my girls, all of a sudden I'm realizing like, oh my God, they're having sex. Oh my God, they're cussing. Oh my God. And I wasn't ready. Well, my girls will experience that and are now as they grow up, and we all do.
Yeah.
When they're babies, I wasn't necessarily interested in them hearing all that or seeing all that stuff. And so you found the same thing? Like that's when I got back into sports. Like I started watching NBA again and started watching Major League Baseball and whatever, because that was the only thing I could watch I thought I could watch if my kids walked in the room.
Exactly. I watch a lot of NBA. My channel is either on ESPN or I'm watching like one of the DC animated movies on Hulu or HBO Max or something like that. So me watching all of the superhero content on all the streaming services is what got me interested in the comics, partly because it's like, oh, this story comes from somewhere. Let me get into that. But yeah, I absolutely noticed it. Like my breaking point, my wife and I used to watch Gotham, right? And there's a scene, or I don't even know how the whole story arc goes, but it's like Jim Gordon's wife or ex-wife or whatever ends up like with, is it Renee Montoya she ends up with?
Yes. Yeah.
And there was like this scene that went on for so long. I'm like, yo, if my daughter walks in the room right now, like that's it. And that was it. I stopped watching Gotham cold turkey then. And that pretty much was the end of network TV for me.
No, I do. I find it's just funny that you said that, because I swear I had the same experience. And it was which my daughters are now 15 and 13. So they're kind of growing up. They're getting into the world as so so to speak, and they're going to experience that stuff on their own. Like I said, just like we all did growing up.
Right.
It's just I wasn't ready for them to see that at 5 or
Exactly.
3. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, sorry. Sidebar. When you said that, I was like, dude, yes, and I've never got to talk about that with anybody. All right. So question 9 is, what do you believe is the single biggest challenge to the comic book collector today?
The ridiculous amount of books that are out.
Yeah.
Right.
Good answer.
I love Batman. There's literally like 2 Batman books every week. I'm going over my pull list right now for tomorrow's video, and there's another new Batman miniseries coming out, Batman Reptilian. And it's like every book offers something slightly different, but it's like there's just way too much product on the shelves, in my opinion, right? And everyone's complaining that the books aren't doing well or whatever. They're not selling like they used to, whatever. I'm like, pare down the line. So there's that. And then there's the fact that I can't really discover anything new because there's 18 X-Men titles. There's 19 Batman titles. There's 4 Spider-Man titles. If I'm a fan of those people, I don't have room to try out the new indie series. I don't have room to try out Green Lantern for the first time. And, God forbid, I mean, they're not even making Green Arrow or whatever. So it's like you end up where it's like if you don't like 3 or 4 characters, chances are there's not necessarily a comic book for you out there. So yeah, I think it's the amount of product, and then combine that with like FOMO and all the variants and all that stuff. Like it's a crazy world, right?
It really is.
Yeah, for someone like me I consider myself a reader and not a collector, it's a little bit easier because I'm not as tempted to go spend the $50 for that book behind the wall, But even without buying variants, it's an expensive hobby, and there's way too much product to like try to sift through every week.
Yeah. No. Do you like the older books, or are you primarily just into the new stuff?
Yeah, I mean, primarily I buy modern books.
Yeah.
I started when I got into comics. Rebirth was the most recent like reboot of DC, and I'm a big Batman fan, so I'm a more of a DC fan than Marvel, and that's just because of the continuity, right? Like I'm still waiting for a good jumping on point for Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. I'm not a fan of the current run, right? But yeah, so I definitely buy the newer stuff more. If I'm gonna go for older stuff, I'll buy a collected edition, or
Mhm.
now, the hospital has an iPad, so I'll read stuff digitally. That makes me I need to buy an iPad, right? But yeah, because digital comics are great for reading the older stuff. Like even Milestone, like I'm currently trying to complete my collection of the original 4 Milestone media series. And even those, like the newsprint, it's old, the colors look a little bit muddy. So it's like reading it in print, while it feels great, and I love the smell, I love it all, reading it digitally is a quote unquote better experience because it's more vibrant, it pops a little bit more. So if I'm gonna read older books, I would rather read them digitally so I don't have to like touch them all gingerly and be all careful and stuff.
Cool, man. Yeah. All right. So question 10, last question.
Mhm.
And this is just kind of, I'm interested to know what YouTube channels BJ Kicks watches. And I'm asking for a specific reason.
Yeah.
Like, what's a channel that you watch that I need to bring on 10 questions? Somebody that I need to talk to, but also just to let the people out there know, hey, here's some other content that you might not be watching that's actually pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, I watch a lot of channels, right? So of course I mentioned Near Mint Condition already. I probably watch his videos more. I watch Mad Dog Comics. That's someone I've been able to build a friendship with. And then there are some newer channels that I watch as well. So like there's Omni Nation Comics, and he's very new to the game. He's got like 4 or 5 videos, but he does these hauls with his niece, and they're just the cutest thing. One of my friends, Laura, she has a channel called Brown Coat Reviews. Her and her husband Scott do a show called Married with Comics, and that's really dope. And she likes to interview people from the community. And yeah, she has the content on their channel is really fun to me, even though the viewership isn't quite there yet. Let's see, who else am I watching? I watch I watch a lot of like the comics analysis guys, like the Perch. I watch his videos a lot. I watch some of Thinking Critical. And after that, it kind of gets into the weeds because I will pretty much watch anything comic related, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend everything I watch.
Right. No, 100% understand. So, man, I've really enjoyed this. I want to thank you for coming on. BJ and I have been trying to nail this down for probably a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I will link the video. I'll link BJ's channel in the description below, but I'll also link the video that he was talking about earlier in the interview, where he talks about kind of building the YouTube channel and some of the things he's looking at, because it's actually a video. You said I'll send it to you, dude. I have it in a playlist of videos that like I will occasionally go back to and just reference, just like if I'm trying to think about my channel and I'm trying to think what's one of the videos that I use to go back. And so I would recommend that video to anybody, and I will 100% put a link to that in the description below. Guys, what can I say? You just listen to the man talk for an hour. There's a reason why his channel, when I shouted him out, jumped from 100 subs to 2,600. I mean, obviously it was because I shouted him out, right? No, I'm kidding. He has phenomenal content, very smart channel. I really enjoy it, and I think you guys would too. So, BJ, man, I sincerely appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me, Jim. I'm happy to do this. Like, very happy to do this.
Cool, man. So I appreciate it. Like I said, guys, I'll leave everything in the description below so that you can go find BJ and check out his stuff. Last thing is I always wrap these up. I still have the code with Street Level Hero LA, and that's STC10. Use that code. You'll get 10% off your order, but most importantly, 25% of your overall order is donated to the American Cancer Society for cancer research. Very important cause to me, and something I make sure that I put out here on every video. All right, guys. BJ Kicks, what can I say, man? I've had an absolute blast this morning. You guys go check him out, sub him up, do all the stuff that we ask you to do. Guys, this has been 10 Questions. Until next time.
Peace.